Hey, this is Pastor Matt, and welcome to our midweek text study. It's good to be back from vacation. We got to visit our families in the Midwest and North Dakota and Minnesota, and it was great. It's great to be back. So today we are looking at Luke chapter 5, verses 36 through 39, and I'll put that on the screen here. The passage begins with Jesus saying, "No one tears a piece from a new garment and puts it on an old garment. If he does, he will tear the new. And the piece from the new ain't gonna match the old." Also, he says, "No one puts new wine into old wineskins." Why? Because if he does, the new wine is going to burst the skins and it will be spilled, and the skins will be destroyed. No, new wine must be put into fresh wineskins. And then he adds this little clarifying statement, which you kind of have to see the context to understand a little bit more, which we'll look at that in a little bit. But the basic message is there is no way to add Jesus to the old, okay? Jesus is new wine. He is a new garment. And if you try to take a little bit of him and patch it onto your existing thing, you're not going to have the real garment of Jesus, and you're not going to have your existing religion work at all anymore. Likewise with the wine. You try to put new wine into this old wineskin that's already gone through the process of stretching with the new wine as it fermented, you're not going to have the new wine of Jesus, and you're not going to have your existing religion. He is explosive to these things. And the reason why that is what is meant here is because of the context. If you go back to verse 27, you have this encounter with Levi, between Jesus and Levi. And Levi is likely Matthew. It might be one of those like Aramaic and Greek name situations where we have two names for the same person, but we don't know. It might be two different guys. Probably is Matthew. But anyways, Levi is sitting at the tax booth, and Jesus says to him, "Follow me." And tax collectors, they're disreputable people in Jewish eyes at this time. He invites him to follow him, and he does. He follows him. And then right after that, we have this account of Levi holding a feast where he invites all of his other disreputable buddies, his tax collector buddies and others there. And the religious leaders, the Pharisees and the scribes, they're rumbling at the disciples saying, "What's wrong with your guy? What's wrong with your teacher? He's eating and drinking with tax collectors and sinners. You're joining him? What's wrong with you? Don't you know we have table fellowship rules? Don't you know we're not supposed to associate with these people lest we become dirty like them?" And Jesus answers, he must overhear them, and he says, "Look, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick do. And I came for them. I did not come to call the righteous to repentance, but sinners. I came for the lost, and nothing is going to get in the way of that." Okay? And then you get verse 33. There's another kind of account here of these people are saying to Jesus, "Look, the disciples of John, they fast and they offer prayers. And you know what? The disciples of the Pharisees, they do it. Jesus, why aren't we doing that? We're eating and drinking. What the heck?" And Jesus says, "Look, when a wedding feast is going on, you don't ask people to fast. And that's what's happening with me. I'm here. Why would you be fasting? You should be feasting." Days are going to come, though, when the bridegroom's taken away from these disciples, and then they will fast in those days. And then we get to the parables that we just covered, okay? But then right after this, we have an account of Jesus and the disciples on a Sabbath walking through a grain field, and they, it seems like, break the Sabbath law by plucking and eating some heads of grain and rubbing them in their hands, and that's counted as work to the Pharisees, and that they get all up in arms about that. So that's kind of the context here. And the basic point, again, is that The religious forms of the day, whether it's the added rules of the Pharisees, or even, in some cases, the specific commands given in the Torah, if those forms of religion that God has given and that man has given, if they get in the way of Jesus' mission, they gotta go. And this is really an uncomfortable sort of thing for the Jews of that day. This is how they worshiped God. This is how they associated with him. And as they're considering following Jesus and adding Jesus to their lives, Jesus kind of warns them here. Don't even try. Don't even try to add me to your life, because I'm going to burst it apart if you do. I am not someone that you can just add. I am to be the center of your life. I am the new wine. And you need a whole new sort of structure, a whole new vessel to accommodate me. That's kind of what he is saying here. And I want you to just kind of think about how this must have felt for these Jewish people who were just hearing him for the first time. They were separate from the Gentiles. They were God's chosen people. They had all of these dietary laws, and if they kept them, that show them that they were good, right? They had these table fellowship laws, like I mentioned. They had Sabbath laws, like I mentioned. They had festivals and dates and all of these certain things that showed them we are God's people. But Jesus is coming for the lost. He is coming for the sick. He is coming for the Gentiles and the Jews. He is coming for all people and all cultures. And these religious forms are not going to accommodate Jesus. There's a new thing that is coming. Jesus is saying something new. He is bringing with him something new. And no culture is going to be able to completely contain him. That's kind of the message behind the message that's coming in here. Why is it important? Well, we have a danger of falling in love with our religious forms, our religious expressions, more than the God that those religious forms are meant to be worshiping. We end up worshiping, as one person put it to me, we end up worshiping our worship rather than the God we were meant to be worshiping. That's the danger. And you know what? I wish we could say that this danger was resolved with the breaking of this new way of Jesus from the Jewish religious system, but it hasn't gone away. We've dealt with this in church history, as we have experienced beautiful forms of worship being produced through the church, ways of singing and songs, the different creeds that have been developed, the art that has been present in churches, literally the buildings being an act of worship. What has often happened is we have fallen in love with the ways that we worship God more than the God that we worship. We fall so in love with these particular expressions of worship that if those expressions were taken away from us, we feel like we can't actually worship God anymore. And what has happened in those moments is we have taken the form and made it almost the function. And Jesus is calling us away from that. But this isn't just a thing for congregational worship. Like, these parables aren't just talking about that. They're talking even deeper about our own personal ambitions and our goals. Sometimes those things, they can get in the way of the mission of Christ. He says, love our neighbors, but we like loving ourselves. And kind of the message of the parable for us here as well is, if you just try to add Jesus into your life, he's going to blow up your life. And you're also not going to have Jesus. You can only have Jesus if he is at the center of your life and you allow him to structure your goals and your ambitions, your practices of life. Jesus, he is so incredibly disruptive. And this is why, as we see in that last sentence, someone experiences the disruption of the new, and they kind of cling to the old. It's hard to accept the disruption that Jesus brings, but the reason why you really should have the new wine and allow Jesus to, use the metaphor he's using, make a new wineskin out of your life. The reason why you should want that is because those forms of worship that we have, or those goals and ambitions that we structure our lives with, those are not the things that can save us. The ways that we tie ourselves back to God, they are not the things that save us. Only God can do that. Only Jesus can do that. And so that's kind of what is the message of the parable. It is a plea to us, a call to us to look at the ways that we've structured our lives, value them for what they are, but if they get in the way of Jesus and his mission, to be okay with getting rid of them, to allow Jesus to order your life. That's the message of the parables. And on Sunday, we'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll have some discussion about what might be considered old wineskins or established patterns or priorities that get in the way of Jesus. Talk about what that might look like for you personally. You can share at tables about that. We're going to look at what it looks like for us to have religious forms, like we need them, to have them knowing that Jesus can't be contained within them. We'll also consider how we can kind of find a balance, and maybe this is rooted to that, find a balance between respecting our religious traditions, the ways that we have worshiped God, while being open to change that enhances our ability to join Jesus in his mission. So we'll talk about that on Sunday. I hope you're able to come on out 10:30. And again, we are downstairs, and hopefully our sound and video issues have been resolved. We'll see. But I think we got to fix for them. So our live stream should work this Sunday. Sorry it hasn't worked the last few Sundays, but we'll see you hopefully on Sunday at 10:30 downstairs. Thanks, and bye-bye.